Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. That is Laura Towler. Now, that right there is Laura Towler. I just did this video, but at the beginning I had Ayn Rand playing his version of Entrance of the Gladiators there. I play that because it's circus music. And this is a circus that we have here. Laura Towler and Endeavor interviewing Laura Towler. And I was told that that video was blocked worldwide, copyright strike, because I used Andre Rieu's version. So that video is ruined. So I'm going to do this again. And the first time I did this video, apparently I didn't hit the start recording button. So this is the third time doing this video. So off the top of my head, I'm going to do one point that I cannot miss. Ayn Rand and immigration. She immigrates to America. Somebody asks her during one of her speeches, "What do you think of immigration?" And she says, "How could I be against it? I wouldn't be alive if I were." So, Ayn Rand is in favor of being able to immigrate to America. If she would not have been able to immigrate, if America said there have been too many visitors, even temporary visitors, because she did come on a 6-month temporary visa. If she had not been able to get any visa at all and ended up being killed in the gulag, who would we blame, ladies and gentlemen? On whose hands is the blood? Now, presumably she would have tried to get into some other country if she couldn't get into America, right? Presumably she would have tried to get into Britain or someplace, right? But can we blame America because Russians killed people inside Russia? Here's the really important point that I want to dig at with this scenario. It might be better for that individual to just run to some other area of the world that's secure and safe. But if every individual took that view, then no place in the world would ever get fixed. So, insofar as the world improves and gets better, and people don't just run to America, it is because people stayed in their country and tried to improve their country instead of running away. So, I'm not denigrating Ayn Rand. Anybody who can get to America should. Felix, I'm worried about him because he hasn't solidified his position here, and he might have to end up going back to Germany, and that would be absolutely abhorrent to me, that a brilliant objectivist would end up going back to Germany. Some of you are viewing me from Pakistan, you poor bastards. And I know what it's like in Pakistan because I used to live in Utah. So, get to America if you can. But just realize that your area of the world will never improve unless somebody improves it. Now, the Greeks said that an idiot is a person who's not interested in politics. That was their definition of the word idiot, to not be interested in politics. Ayn Rand said, if we bomb Russia and kill a bunch of Russians, the blood's not on our hands, it's on the Russians' hands, and it's just a message to people that the government they live under is important. They take responsibility for the government they live under. You, ladies and gentlemen, take responsibility for the government you live under. You answer for that government. So it had better reflect your views and your values, or if it doesn't, you had better do something about that. And it's on pain of death, you had better make sure that your country and your government are in good order. Right? You cannot blame some other country for not opening up its borders and letting you in. That is not a death sentence put on you by America because somebody in Russia killed you. That means that Russia needs to change. Not that America has to open its borders for a flood of anybody that wants to come. On the flip side of that, I say that America should virtually open its borders. The problem is the welfare state. In the 1800s, 1 out of 3 people who came left within a couple years. Now we are way different from that, right? Used to be if you couldn't make it, you couldn't get a job or something, you'd go back to one of your other countries and live with the old cousins or whatever it was. Live in whatever security you had back there. Because things weren't free in America. So we've changed all that. So if we can do away with the welfare state, then, and only then, I would be in favor of open borders again. Remember, we have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of worship, the right to own guns. So if the Muslims come in here and they try to restrict freedom of speech, freedom of worship, or if they mess around, we've got gun ownership as our final ace, right? All right, now, I guess I should get around to the video finally. Let's see.
But obviously, you can't replace the people and then expect the culture to just stay the same. It doesn't work like that. But people think that when it comes to white people, you can.
Now, do they really think that when it comes to white people, we can replace them and everything will stay the same? I say no. I say that these are nihilists who hate Western culture and are trying to destroy it. A little trickle of immigrants was turned on because of the demographic crisis that was starting to grip Europe in the 60s and 70s, and it's just become tighter and tighter. They have a welfare state Ponzi scheme that's based on more and more people getting involved in the welfare state, or else it doesn't work mathematically. And so they have to import workers. They have to import a basic, and population growth was slowing and slowing. So that was going to happen. Now what happened was somebody turned that trickle into a fire hose. It wasn't the people who originally started the trickle, and the people who originally started the trickle and the reasons they originally started the trickle aren't the same as the fire hose that's going today. The fire hose that's going today is for the purpose of destroying Western civilization. It's not for the purpose of helping maintain demographic stability, which was the original intent. So, the ultimate answer for this is freedom. Europe is going to go through the ringer in this, just like they did in the 1930s. FDR in the 1930s set up an alphabet agency, a maze. We had 95% government tax rates. We had the CCP, or CCC, running around building bridges and roads because they were all unemployed. In order to keep the price of tangerines up, the government confiscated tangerines and burned them. In order to try to raise the price of cattle, they slaughtered cattle and buried the corpses. In order to try to make America richer in the 1930s, the government destroyed wealth. In order to try to make us richer, they destroyed wealth. The 1930s was a period of government fascism. The 1930s in the United States was not a depression. It was a period of economic controls. As soon as those controls were removed, the economy recovered. All right. Now, I don't know. I can remember how I got off onto this. Okay, freedom. The problem is freedom. The United States had a pretty rough time in the 1930s. Pretty damn rough. But it came out of it better than Europe did. Even with everything I just said. Even with the Depression, 95% tax rates, all that, we came out of it better than Europe did. They went through the 1930s with all the same fads going on through the newspapers, all the same popular authors in Europe as in America. In America, it created 10 years of economic fascism. In Europe, it utterly destroyed the continent. Okay, that's the type of situation we're looking at again. What's America going to do with multiculturalism? Oh, we're going to hem and haw and it's going to be rough. They've already got it rougher in Canada with multiculturalism than we have in America. They've already got more newspeak and enforcement of newspeak up there than we have in America. The same thing's happening in Europe. Multiculturalism's going faster and farther in Europe than it's ever gone in America or ever will go. Europe's going to go through the ringer. I'm sorry to say it. It's going to be some kind of drastic civil war.
But if you ask them, if I replaced everybody in India, if I took all the Indian people out of India and replaced them with Chinese people, would it still be Indian?
See, these people who are worried about immigration changing our culture, this argument's not going to get you anywhere with these people. They know that immigration changes culture. They want to destroy Western culture. Their favorite story, their favorite bedtime story, is about how Columbus came here and brought a bunch of immigrants from Europe and destroyed the native culture. Right? That's the leftists' favorite bedtime story. So they know that bringing large numbers of people in with different value systems will change the culture. They know that. The only place in the world today that this isn't true is the United States, because we have virtually no real background culture. And we've got 50 different subcultures in 50 different states. And if you come here, it's not a question of how do you fit in and get along in the culture. It's a question of how do you survive and be of benefit to somebody. You've got to figure out a way to do something that benefits other people, so much so that you can afford to live here. That's the trick question to come to America, not to fit in and be part of the group. If you go to Europe, you just have to be part of some group and fit in somewhere. Now, they live in utter poverty, which is going to start increasing. And millionaires are leaving, businesses are shutting down, the lights are going out all over Europe, and it's going to get worse.
Culture, or would it just be China somewhere else? And obviously it would just be China somewhere else. So the ethnicity and the genetic part does matter. I'm not one of these purists who say that it has to be 100% ethnically English. I think my ideal figure is 95%. I'm quite happy with that.
See, this is the hilarious part of this girl who used to be a woke leftist, multiculturalist, is now defending a 95% white quota in her country. America doesn't even have that. We wouldn't even consider dreaming of something like that. There are some people. But we can get along perfectly well with peaceful black people, peaceful Hispanic people, peaceful Chinese and Japanese people. There's nothing uncivilized about peaceful people. The real problem isn't skin color, damn it. The real problem is rationality and using the mind and respecting other people's mind and respecting other people's right to use their mind. And people who don't respect that, whatever their culture, whatever the color of their skin is, people who don't respect other people's right to use their own mind are to be put in prison or jailed or to be sent out of the country. So the answer isn't a quota on skin color. That's going to start a bad war, and that's going to confuse people too. It's going to make people think that skin color is important. And skin color is not important. We've got 16-17% African Americans in the United States, and some similar percentage of Mexicans. I think probably 20 or 30 or something like this. So skin color is not the thing. The freedom is the thing. Think about the Greeks. What skin color were they? I don't know. They were pretty swarthy, but they invented freedom. So it's not skin color that's the thing.
And obviously there'll be some people on temporary visas or work visas, study visas, etc. But
now this is where Yaron Brooks says you can go ahead and let the immigrants in. Doesn't matter if they destroy the country, because if you kept them out, the country would have been destroyed anyway. Right? What was the immigration situation in Germany in the 20s and 30s? Were they allowing massive waves of immigrants? No, but they destroyed their country. Right? So it'll be destroyed from within, doesn't matter, immigration doesn't matter in that view, right? But what if it won't be destroyed from within? I can see that Europe destroyed itself from within, sure, and would have anyways, didn't need the immigrants, but the immigrants helped. What if the United States isn't weak? What if it's not going to destroy itself from within? What if it's going to be here 200 years from now still? What if it's going to improve itself and better itself and roll back the deep state and push freedom forward and reduce taxes and reduce the welfare state under new libertarian hegemony? What if that comes about? Are you still going to say there's nothing worth defending here? We should just let floods of people come in anyway? It doesn't matter, because if we held them out, we'd probably destroy it anyway? You see, I think there's pretty weak territory there, weak to stand on. But I do admit that Germany destroyed itself, not through immigration, but through its own internal policies in the 1930s. That is for sure. So if you think the magic bullet is just closing the borders and then everything will be fine, that's not true. Eventually you have to face the outside world anyway, like Japan had to in 1852. All right, I think I've said what I can say there.
The people, the nation is the people, if that makes sense. You can't just replace the people and then say that it's still Britain. Because
see, that's where it's so messy in America. The nation is the people, and yet we have waves of immigrants come in. The Irish came in, and but they were all the same. They weren't looked at as the same when they came in. Holy crap, no. So America is a free country. We don't have a culture. She says the culture is the people. Look at America. You go to Ohio or Iowa or Idaho, and the people there are very different from downtown New York City or downtown Los Angeles. Right? We don't have a American culture unless the American culture is just guns and burgers and freedom, baby. Something like that, right? So what I'm saying is, if she tries to defend British culture, and that's how these guys got themselves in the mess to begin with. They said, let's forget about British culture the way that Germany, is forgetting about Aryan culture. Let's just try to be free and get along. They tried to do that without freedom. Okay? They invited a bunch of immigrants in, and they said, everybody keep your culture. Everybody keep your identity. We don't want to force or coerce you to be like us. We're not that good. We're not that important. There's nothing special. Our culture's no different from yours. Right? That's the root of the problem. That they let them in, and those people stayed the same. Their cultures didn't integrate. And so now there are parallel societies in Europe, all over Europe. Big parallel society. America's got a bit of that, but not nearly as much. In fact, America's probably got a stronger and worse version in some ways, because ours are very heavily armed camps. But in Tennessee they've got compounds, Virginia and Texas and Oklahoma and New Mexico. The Muslims have compounds up there. Okay, it's true. I don't know if they're ever going to use them for anything, because if they do, it'll sure be a quick fight. They would not have to go far to get a fight, I'll tell you that. Whereas in Europe, the Muslim ghettos are armed to the teeth with AK-47s and grenades. Oh my God, up in Sweden they've got grenade attacks. 58 grenade attacks by now or something. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Swedish grenade attacks. How often are there grenade attacks in New York City or Los Angeles? How often?
Because it's not. So British culture matters to me, and the British people matter to me, and European people. I think there's different levels, isn't there? So English people obviously first, British, Europeans, Western people, whatever. But yeah, I can't.
See, you think like that in terms of skin color and nationality, and you start ending up with weird lists and hierarchies. She's just being sucked right down that road, isn't she? The answer is freedom. The answer is to let the Muslims come in, but don't give them any money. They have to come in and work. While you let them in, have guns. Everybody have guns, have stores with guns, have factories making more guns. Everybody guns everywhere. And don't allow any laws against freedom of speech or freedom of religion. Okay? That would be the way to go about this. All right? How many Muslims should you let in? I don't know. Vote on it. Have a law. Have your representatives write a law. Have a debate. Say we've got too many coming in. They're affecting our culture. We want less. Say we need workers. Our farmers have food going rotten in the fields. We need more. Right? That's how that debate would take place every single day, every single year. Ultimately, a free country is going to want more people. Ultimately, it's in our best interest to have a bigger population, both for inventiveness and in order to face other countries that might want to attack us. Just to have a good-sized team if they fight with us. Now, I don't believe that numbers is the real answer. Of course, ancient Greece was tiny and it took out Persia, which was gargantuan. So, freedom is the answer there, too. America's lucky that it has a pretty big patch of ground, but it would be hard for them to, even if we were trapped in the original 13 colonies, it would be hard for anybody to fight a free country. All right, let's continue.
I care about the English people and I care about English culture, so that's why I don't want them to be replaced. And I also find it incredibly insulting when somebody like David Lammy says that he's just as English as I am. Like, how dare you say that to me? Do you know what I mean? You're African Caribbean. And I would never say to a Maori person, oh...
See, there's the heart of the matter. What if an African or Caribbean person moved to America and said that they were an American? Who would bat an eye? Right? Who would even bat an eye? Of course, I know there are some identitarians out there. There's Nick Fuentes and stuff. These guys say if you're not white, you're not American. But Americans came from Europe. You know, that's back to the favorite bedtime story of leftists about how America was once populated by peaceful Indians, and then those were all displaced by rude, brash, gun-toting, disease-carrying immigrants. This sounds awfully like Europe.
I'm not sure what the plural is for Maori, but I'm just as Maori as you, because it's rude, you know what I mean? Like, they're a distinct group of people, and you shouldn't undermine their identity and their separateness.
See, they are not going to let go of identity. They're not going to let go of cultural identity as the measuring stick of reality, even when they decide that multiculturalism hasn't worked, right? Now, they could say, okay, this multiculturalism shit's not working. Let's do away with the welfare state. Let's allow everybody to have guns to defend themselves against the violent people we brought in. Let's start enforcing the law even if the Muslims don't like it and it upsets them, and even if there are newspaper articles about how the police are racist. Let's just throw that garbage out, say screw them, that's not racist to enforce rape law. Let's start enforcing the law, right? They could go down that road. That would be the road of freedom. Protect rights. Protect freedom. Are they going to go down that road? No. They're going to go down some other road. Protect the race. Protect identity. Protect the group. Protect the collective. Right? So it's going to get nasty. It's going to get ugly over there in Europe. It already is.
Because it matters. And I think that nationalists really are the only people that truly appreciate the diversity of the world.
There we go. They're going to recruit nationalists from the left en masse. If you appreciate diversity in the world, come be a nationalist and help us preserve the white identity of Britain as well as the cultural identity of every other nation. Japan, Italy, Spain, they should all have a cultural identity, right? Except America. America's just a hodgepodge of commercialism. They're just get-rich-quick schemes. America's just crass materialists, right? Now, if you ask me, the entire world should be like America. It's unlikely that it'll ever be that case. But that's fine. We don't really need them to be. We're exporting ourselves to them pretty strongly anyway. Like one of you said for the New Intellectual, he calls himself the Pakistani guy, he says everybody's obsessed with Western culture, but they hate it and they believe it's decadent.
And different cultures. And I think for me the reason why I'm like this is I was very patriotic growing up, so my mum and dad were always like into old music and stuff, and I always spent a lot of time with my grandparents and things, and I've always been into, you know, like old black and white films and like old music and stuff.
Yes.
And we used to always...
the nostalgia of people who are watching their way of life slip away before them, be utterly destroyed before them. Once in a while I lament what was destroyed in World War II. I do think back, I think, what if we wouldn't have had that catastrophic war and they could have peacefully gotten through that period? I think of all the towns, villages, roads, everything, you know. And really, Europe, since World War II, has just been a playground for Americans to go visit and see their old cultures. We preserved it for that purpose. We preserved it in that way. When communism stopped being a threat, we walked away. The Europeans let their borders down and everything fell apart. But we were defending it against communism, and we had saved it from totalitarian fascism so that we could have the old countries. We carved it back up from the Nazi superstate that it was into the smaller states it used to be. France, Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, right? We just restored what the situation had been. And then we said, all right, keep everything in order, guys, so Americans can visit and see the old culture. And that's how it was for 70 damn years. Now it's falling apart. Falling apart.
I always go to the seaside as a kid, so I come from a working class background. We never really went abroad. So I was always engrossed in British culture. And then just seeing it change over the last couple of decades, it's just really, really sad because I have seen it changed before my eyes. But we also went...
Now, she's probably a symptom of this. I don't know. I don't remember she mentioned brothers or sisters. She just mentions her parents, and she's probably an only child. In order for the civilization to grow and prosper, you would have to have 3 children in each family, or at least 2.2 or something, because some people die before, some women are barren, some children die, before they reach age, some people die in car wrecks, some men die on the work site or whatever before they ever have a child. So to make up for those deaths, you got to have more than 2 children for each parent, set of 2 parents. It's got to be 3 or 2.2, 2.4, something like this. She comes from a single child family, or in all likelihood. That was what was erasing Europe. That was what was erasing Europe. That was why they had to bring in, in the old days when it was 6 or 8 or 10 kids per family, they were exporting boatloads of people. Europe was exporting boatloads of people back when they were reproductively productive. Now the Muslims are exporting boatloads of people because they're reproductively productive.
When we were younger, we had some Japanese students stay with us for a few years while they were at university, and I remember being fascinated by how different they were.
Oh, they were so different, and she has so much respect for them. So listen to this. This is nearly the end of the material we're concerned with. She is so woke. She is so leftist. She is so multicultural. She respects other cultures. She respects them just as they are. She doesn't have to question them. She just has such a deep, just amazing respect for them. Listen to this.
And I had so much respect for them and their language and their style of dress and their culture and everything. And I still have that level of respect for every group of people across the world.
Period, end of thought. She has lots and lots of respect for them. So, the leftists, the multiculturalists, the ones who wanted the open borders, once they start getting raped and punched in the face and beaten up and robbed, they're very quickly going to say, I still have lots of respect for all these cultures, but let's go back to 95% white, please. Because freedom isn't the value for them. Freedom is not even a question. It's not even on the radar. Respecting rights, keeping peace in society by respecting individual rights, thereby granting people freedom, not even on the radar of this girl or Endeavor. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what I do, please patronize me. I'm trying to get up to about $600 or $800 a month. And please go throw your $5 or $10 a month on there if you appreciate what I do. And let's try to make this something that I can do regularly without feeling guilty about the time that I'm spending here. I sit here and do the math. And I say, oh my God, I'm making $1 an hour. This is I'm stupid to do this. But I'm trying to build the channel up. I'm trying to do debates, arguments, and interviews. Those will happen more and more. So, if you support what I'm doing, please jump on Patreon, give me $5 or $10 a month, and help me build up a stream that will allow me to do this regularly. Thank you, Mr. Cropper out.